It's hard to believe that it's been nearly 10 years since season 1 of Stranger Things was first released. What used to make people nostalgic for the 80s now has people feeling nostalgic for 2016. These are the kids from Stranger Things now. Truly the embodiment of the feel old yet meme. Over the course of this time, Stranger Things has released 4 incredible seasons of television, and with the 5th and final season nearly upon us, I wanted to make a video to celebrate the series and its accomplishments. I thought one of the best ways to do this was to make a list of what I believe to be the 50 greatest moments in the show. Now, despite 50 moments being a lot, when I was initially making my list, it ended up exceeding 80, forcing me to make some difficult cuts while narrowing it down. This is a testament to just how many amazing moments there are throughout the series. For the purposes of this video, I ranked the moments from 50 all the way to the greatest moment in Stranger Things. However, the placements of these moments are simply my opinion, and the video in itself is just an excuse to talk about some great moments in a TV series that we all love. If you disagree with my placements or had any moments that I omitted from my top 50 but you personally love, feel free to share them in the comment section. I want to have a good mix of varying types of moments, and so there are some funny moments, some action scenes, and some heartfelt moments sprinkled throughout the list. I also tried not to double up on moments that felt too similar. So in some cases, I chose which one I personally enjoyed more, even if both were arguably deserving of a spot on the list. With that said, let's jump right into the rankings. Also, this video contains spoilers for seasons 1 through 4 of Stranger Things. Number 50, Billy flirts with Mrs. Wheeler. Starting the list off is a really fun moment from season 2, when Billy comes knocking on the Wheelers' door. With Mrs. Wheeler being stuck in a loveless marriage, having married for comfort, and because there was a certain expectation placed on her as a young woman, she has had to get her thrills in other ways. A nice bubble bath, a glass of wine, and a steamy romance novel. When Billy comes looking for Max, she is immediately smitten with the young stud. There is an electricity in this scene, as Billy turns on the charm, showering Mrs. Wheeler with the attention that she rarely gets.
Didn't realize Nancy had a sister.
I'm Nancy's mother.
No.
Yes.
Mrs. Wheeler.
It's a nice touch that Billy looks almost exactly like the man from the book that she was reading, as if he has walked right off the page and into her life.
Here I am.
It's a really fun exchange and plants the seed of what will be further explored in season 3. Even if it's just a small moment, I really enjoy it, and so it lands here at number 50. Number 49, Alexei loves Slurpees. When we first meet Alexei at the start of season 3, he seemed like a pretty nondescript Russian scientist, and I had no expectation that he would end up being such a funny and beloved character. When making the list, I really wanted to have Alexei represented in some way, with it either showcasing his interesting dynamic with Hopper,
Пожалуйста, сэр, опустите пистолет.
I can't understand you!
or his growing friendship with Murray. In the end, I chose this moment because I think it does the best job of showing Alexei's character as a whole. The scene in question is when Hopper returns to Murray's place, bringing with him a haul of Burger King and a Slurpee. Hopper and company are trying to get him to talk about what the Russians are doing in Hawkins, but Alexei is more interested in watching Woody Woodpecker and drinking Slurpees. The conflict arrives when Alexei realizes that Hopper didn't get him the cherry Slurpee that he requested, but instead got him shit strawberry. It's great, as he is complaining and Joyce and Murray are kind of on his side.
Hop, he did ask for cherry.
It is sugar on ice. You tell him that.
Tell him what?
You tell him that it all tastes the goddamn same!
Hopper couldn't be more wrong saying that all Slurpees taste the same. Legitimately a terrible take. Alexei, being a man who understands the value of a Slurpee, draws a line in the sand. No cherry, no deal. Hopper loses it and essentially throws Alexei out of the house, calling his bluff and daring him to escape. It's pretty funny as Hopper is explaining how Alexei won't leave, as it intercuts with Alexei getting into the car and preparing to drive off the lot. However, where it gets more interesting is that in the end, Hopper is right. Having been taken captive, Alexei is now a man without a home. home, as if he returned to the Russians, they would assume he talked and likely kill him. In the end, his best chance of surviving is helping Hopper and to try and make a new life for himself in America. Alexei finds himself having to settle for the strawberry Slurpee, making the best out of the situation that he can. Alexei brings a fun energy to the show's third season, and I think this moment does a great job illustrating that, and as a result, it finds itself here as number 49 on my list. Number 48, Jason forms a mob. Jason is probably one of the least liked characters in all of season 4. Heck, maybe even the whole show. By this point in the story, he has gone from what was a relatively normal guy whose priorities consisted of shooting hoops and slamming brewskis to someone who has completely gone off the deep end. He has seen just enough to let his fear and grief lead him to the wrong conclusions, and his strong personal conviction that he is right does nothing but create more issues and put people's lives in danger. I really like this scene as the new police sheriff Powell is conducting a town meeting, trying to assure everyone that things are under control and not to panic. It's interesting to see Powell in this position, as unlike his predecessor Hopper, he doesn't have all the necessary information to properly conduct his investigation. With the townspeople scared from the ongoing murder spree, Jason and his crew of jocks show up to make things worse. After having seen Patrick's death, Jason is fully convinced that Eddie is a vessel for the devil. He feeds into this satanic panic, claiming that the Hellfire Club is actually a satanic cult.
And I've come to accept an awful truth. These murders are ritualistic sacrifices.
I really like how the show brought this plot point back into the story, as I find it an interesting way to play off of the actual sentiment of the time. I also like how Jason's speech mirrors his speech from the beginning of the season at the pep rally. He is a hype man through and through, able to spin anything whichever way it suits him.
And God knows there's good in this town. So much good. It's in this room!
By claiming that Hellfire is a cult that is harboring Eddie, he in effect causes a witch hunt, with many of our protagonists on his hit list. I also loved seeing the reactions of the kids' parents, as they look on helplessly as Jason essentially accuses their kids of aiding and abetting a murderer and being part of satanic rituals. This moment gives some stakes for the parents, who are more often than not oblivious to the actual danger their kids constantly find themselves in. The scene puts them on high alert, as they know that an angry mob is looking for their kids, and they need to make sure that the wrong people don't end up finding them first. Overall, I think this is a great moment that further develops the dynamics of the season 4 storyline. Number 47, Will the Spy. After Will gets flayed in the early part of season 2, his connection to the Upside Down is enhanced, as for a brief time, he became part of the Hive Mind. The party tried to use this to their advantage by using Will's now memories to help them and spy on the Mind Flayer.
You're like a spy now. A super spy. Spying on the Shadow Monster.
Unfortunately, they realized all too late just what kind of control the Mind Flayer had over Will. As the Uno reverse card was played, and instead of Will spying on the Mind Flayer, the Flayer used Will as his man on the inside. After the soldiers at Hawkins' lab tried to burn away the ever-spreading tendrils of the Upside Down, the Mind Flayer was pissed.
I told you. They upset him.
He used Will and the trust that Dr. Owens placed in him to lure the soldiers into a trap. Where I think this moment really shines is how it is intercut between Will slowly revealing to Mike what he has done, with the soldiers being led deeper and deeper into the ambush. The radar is used to great effect, as we see the soldiers get surrounded and slowly killed as their dots fade away and their screams are heard on the walkie. By the time Mike realizes what Will has done, it is too late, as the soldiers are taken out by the Demodogs. Will slowly breaking down as he admits what he was forced to do is heartbreaking.
I'm sorry. He made me do it.
It's also really impactful seeing the desperation in Mike as he tries to warn the others about the ambush, even though, as the audience, we already know it's too late. This moment is also perhaps one of the best cliffhangers in the show, as after the soldiers have all been taken out, we see the Demodogs slowly approach Hopper and company, making the audience fear what's to come. Honestly, the fact that this ending is so great, and we as an audience are so invested in what is happening at the lab, made the fact that we have to wait a whole episode to pick up where we left off all the more frustrating. Still, This is an absolutely great moment, and it lands here at number 47. Number 46, the Byers leave Hawkins. The Byers moving out of Hawkins at the end of the 3rd season feels like the closing of a chapter. The Byers house was such an important location for the show in the early seasons, with it almost being a character in itself, as it evolved based on whatever was going on at the time. From being covered in Christmas lights as a means of communicating with Will, to being covered in drawings and used as a map, to being the place where the teens set a trap for the Demogorgon. The Byers house has seen it all, and was an integral part of the show. It almost felt like the house itself had a special connection to the Upside Down, and as a result, it really does make sense why the Byers would want to move out of it. I also love how it feels like it builds on Bob originally suggesting the idea in season 2.
Kind of makes my idea of moving to Maine sound a little less crazy, right?
Oh, it's not crazy at all.
With Bob dying, it would have been easy for the show to entirely drop the idea of the Byers moving away. But I think Bob's death actually has the opposite effect, as the tragedy of it makes Joyce even more set on the idea, as she doesn't want to live through a similar experience with another one of her loved ones. Her leaving is an attempt to protect her family. Leaving Hawkins is emotional for all the Byers, with it being a continuation of Will's arc this season, about growing up and moving on. There's also a sweet moment between Nancy and Jonathan as they say goodbye and look at the scars on their hands, showing that even though they will be far away from each other, they will always bring each other with them wherever they may go. The star of the scene is Eleven reading Hopper's letter. It is really emotional as Hopper's written words are able to convey to Eleven everything that she meant to him. It reinforces to the characters and the audience that change is inevitable and that the best we can do is to adapt, to grow, to learn, and do our best to embrace what life has to offer. I think this is a really beautiful moment and is deserving of its spot on this list. Number 45. Max is next. One of the strengths of Stranger Things is how it builds suspense, revealing information in just the right way to put the audience on edge. I think the moment where Max learns that she is Vecna's next target is a great example of this. It has Max reading the files of Chrissy and Fred, learning the symptoms they were suffering from before they were killed. Both Max and the audience are taken aback as we realize that Max has been suffering from all of the same things: headaches, nosebleeds, past trauma, nightmares, and depression. We had previously seen some of these things in the lead up to this moment, but didn't think much of them until now when they are completely recontextualized. The scene is incredibly haunting as Max sees the clock for the first time, signaling that her time is running out. Vecna calling her name adds to the creepiness of the moment and confirms that she is fully in his sights. I also think this moment gets the audience even more invested in the story, as putting one of our main characters in the crosshairs makes the threat of Vecna all the more real. I think this is a great moment that really has the audience sit up and lean in when watching it. Number 44. Shootout at the Byers. This scene is just a great action set piece, bringing some much appreciated excitement to the California storyline. It also continues the tradition of the Byers house getting destroyed, which I really enjoy. The Byers can move out of Hawkins, but they can't avoid the inevitable fate that their house is going to take some hits over the course of a season. The scene itself is really great, as there was a lot of effort put in to making it one long shot, allowing the audience to follow the action and move through the scene with the characters. It also gives unknown hero Agent Man his moment to shine, as he takes out waves upon waves of enemy soldiers, and you've got to feel bad for his partner, opening the door expecting pizza,
Time.
and instead finding himself shot in the stomach. Number 43. Jonathan vs. Steve. A classic moment from season 1, the Jonathan-Steve fight is really fun visually, but is also extremely rich in terms of character. The scene starts off slightly foreboding, as we see passersby on the street giving Nancy strange looks. Our hearts break for Nancy, as we see the graffiti on the theater, calling her a slut. Nancy had previously expressed one of her biggest fears was being seen as a slut, and that insecurity was weaponized against her, used to humiliate her. But Nancy is not one to back down, and so she marches right up to Steve and his crew, demanding answers.
What is wrong with you?
What's wrong with me? What's wrong with you? I was worried about you.
Steve is very upset and emotional, thinking that Nancy cheated on him as he saw her together with Jonathan in her bedroom the previous night. He is hurt and feels betrayed by Nancy, and he's trying to make others feel as hurt as he feels. Obviously, in this instance, Steve was wrong in his actions, but also his motivation, as Nancy wasn't actually cheating on him with Jonathan. However, due to the supernatural nature of why Nancy was hanging out with Jonathan, Nancy can't tell Steve what really happened because he would never believe her.
We were just...
You just want... Finish that sentence.
Steve shifts his focus from Nancy to Jonathan and hurls insults at him, taking out all of his anger. However, Steve pushes things too far and proceeds to get the shit kicked out of him.
And I'm not even surprised
Jonathan,
what happened to your
leave
brother.
it.
I'm sorry I have to be the one to
Steve,
tell you,
shut
but
up.
the Byers, their family is a disgrace to the entire town.
Jonathan almost can't control himself, as he too is letting out all of his frustration, fear, and anger out in this moment. Jonathan beating up Steve is the proverbial bonk on the head that he needed to realize that the things he was doing were unacceptable and that he needed to change. This moment really kicks off the start of Steve's growth, and that wouldn't have been possible if Nancy hadn't called him out on his bullshit and Jonathan hadn't reinforced the lesson with his fists of fury. Number 42. Billy gets pulled into the Upside Down. Billy was introduced in season 2, but he didn't really have anything to do most of the time. Sure, he had a big climactic fight against Steve in the finale, but for the most part his role was pretty minor, as he was completely uninvolved with any of the Upside Down storylines. It felt like they didn't really have a clear idea what they wanted to do with the character. With Billy being immediately pulled into the Upside Down at the end of the first episode in season 3, it felt like it invigorated his character with a new sense of narrative purpose. I love the decision to throw him right in the thick of things, giving him an elevated role as the main human antagonist. I think season 3 is excellent, and Billy is one of the absolute standouts for me. The moment itself is genuinely spooky. After Billy crashes while en route to meet up with Mrs. Wheeler, he is dragged away and put through the ringer, with what the Mind Flayer is doing to him looking absolutely horrible and incredibly invasive. Having no prior knowledge about the Upside Down, Billy has no idea what is going on, running on nothing but fear and adrenaline. I think the scene of him in the phone booth and then suddenly he is in the Upside Down is a really iconic shot. Seeing an army of people marching towards him has Billy and the audience confused in the best way, not knowing what this will lead to. Number 41. Eleven and Max become friends. I think one of the strengths of the third season is the fun summertime vibes that it has, especially early in the season. I think these happy moments help to reinforce many of the show's overarching themes about friendship. Eleven and Max's growing relationship is at the center of that for me, where their only interaction in season 2 could be at best described as frosty.
Hey, I'm Max. I've heard a lot about you.
I'm like, what do you say fuck me for?
I applaud the show for taking the time to give us a new character pairing and using it as an opportunity to enhance the group dynamics. I really like the development of this friendship, as we see Max broadening Eleven's horizons, where Eleven was locked up for most of her life and has had anything but a normal childhood. Max takes her under her wing and shows her all of the things that she has been missing out on. Max encourages Eleven to try and discover who she is and what she likes, instead of doing what others tell her to. Eleven is able to express herself in ways that she wasn't able to before, like when she gets new clothes. Max helps Eleven realize all that life has to offer. It's also really wholesome seeing Eleven parroting Max's words a few times, as she is still trying to understand herself and how she fits into the world.
Oh, boring.
Yeah, boring. Do you knock? Jeez. Yeah, jeez.
I think the Max and Eleven friendship is fantastic and adds extra depth to future seasons, as we have seen that these two have come to care for one another. Number 40. Bob the Brain finds Hopper. They don't call him Bob the Brain for nothing. I really love this moment with Bob coming over with brain teasers to try and help comfort Will. When he is brought into the house under the condition that he not ask any questions, naturally, he's a little confused. He is genuinely concerned for Joyce and Will, as they have decorated the house with seemingly random nonsense and are asking him to try and make sense of it.
Will doesn't look well. You don't look well. What's going on?
The best part of this moment for me is, despite thinking it's crazy, he can't help himself but get involved and try to solve it. And once the brain starts, there's no stopping him.
I know that shape. It's Lover's Lake.
He ends up really having a lot of fun as he realizes that Will has essentially drawn a map of Hawkins. I kind of love the juxtaposition between him not knowing anything and thinking this is just some weird game that they are playing, and everyone else who knows about the Upside Down taking it super seriously, like it's life or death, which it is. Bob is even more taken aback when after he pinpoints the location, they actually want to go there.
What are we really going?
I also love his line about pirate treasure, a nod to his role in the Goonies.
What's at the X? Pirate treasure?
Bob was a treat every time he was on screen, and dare I say, he was gone too soon. Number 39, the championship game and Hellfire Club. This is a really dynamic scene, as it cuts between the school's championship basketball game and the end of the Hellfire Club's D&D campaign. The needle drop of Detroit Rock City adds a lot to the moment, and helps it really come alive. I really like how the editing is able to create a connection between the two activities that on the surface are diametrically opposed. On the basketball side of things, we get some fun interactions, like Tammy Thompson making an appearance and proving to everyone that she really does sound like a Muppet. We get a brief interaction between Robin and Vicky, slowly starting to build that relationship. We also see how Jason likes to take charge, supreme confidence in himself as he wants to be the one who controls the outcome of the game.
Just get me the ball. Get me the ball.
There is also a sad moment when Lucas looks into the crowd, only to see that none of his friends showed up to support him in something that he is passionate about. The D&D side is equally as exciting, with Dustin and Mike introducing Erica as the Phil, with her going toe-to-toe with Eddie and instantly earning his respect.
Welcome to Hellfire.
There are some hints about what is to come for the season, as the big bad of the campaign is Vecna, and the party is asked if they run away or stand their ground and fight to the death.
Did you flee Vecna and his cultists, or did you stand your ground and fight?
Both things that Eddie ends up doing when the situation becomes a reality. I like how the Sinclair siblings end up being the heroes of their respective spheres, with Lucas hitting the game shot and Erica getting the nat 20 to defeat Vecna. I think it's made more impactful that both of them are acting as replacements, with Lucas coming off the bench and Erica filling in for her brother. The Tigers winning the championship feels like a classic sports movie, and the completion of the D&D campaign feels like the nerdier version of that. I really like the euphoria and triumph that we get to witness in these two different worlds, and so this is my selection for the 39th greatest moment in Stranger Things. Number 38. Joyce visits Castle Byers. When I did my most recent rewatch to help me make this list, this is a moment that kind of caught me off guard. As we see Joyce enter Castle Byers, we almost lose ourselves and think this is the present. Castle Byers feels like a place of joy and comfort, as Joyce and Will share a nice moment. You can tell that even though Joyce doesn't necessarily understand everything that Will is into, she is trying to take an interest in his interests.
Password? Radagast?
Being supportive in whatever way she can. It does a great job of showing the audience just how much Joyce loves her son, as well as letting us see what kind of kid Will is. And just as the scene fills up our hearts with a pleasant, warm wholesomeness, it cuts back to the present, all happiness and color drained, as Joyce finds Castle Byers empty, a void where Will should be. I found this cut to the present to be really powerful, as it contrasts the nice moment we just witnessed with the desperate search they currently find themselves. I also like how this scene highlights Castle Byers as a place Will goes as a sort of safe haven, it being a representation of his childhood and innocence. This moment gets even better when we learn later in the season that Will actually was taking refuge in Castle Byers. It was just in the Upside Down. So yeah, this is a sneakily fantastic scene. Number 37. Hopper breaks in to see Will's body. Hopper's role in the first season is perhaps my favorite version of the character, as we see him try to figure out what really happened to Will, and in the process, he unearths the major conspiracy going on at Hawkins' lab. The scene where he breaks into the hospital to look at Will's body is a great representation of why I love him so much in season 1. After finding the body, it should be case closed. However, Joyce is insisting that it's not Will.
I don't know
what you think that thing is in there, but that is not my son.
And there are a few too many other things that aren't adding up. The feds were the ones that found Will's body, and they were the ones that conducted the autopsy, and for some reason, there's an armed guard stationed outside the room, making sure no one gets to have a closer look.
Well, it all seemed a bit over the top to me, considering...
Considering what?
Considering this was Will Byers and not John F. Kennedy.
Hopper starts to think, maybe Joyce is right, as crazy as that sounds, and he takes a huge leap of faith to see this hunch through. In classic Hopper fashion, the story he tells the guard is immediately questioned.
What the hell are you talking about? I don't work with O'Bannon.
And so he just knocks him out, something that will become a bit of a habit for our favorite sheriff. The best part of the scene is when Hopper hesitates a second before cutting into the dummy's body, really contemplating what he is about to do and the consequences of if he is wrong. Like, if he is wrong, it's seriously messed up. Breaking in to cut open a dead kid? That would not be a good look. But he's right, and as he realizes that this body is a fake, it also confirms to him that there is more going on in Hawkins than he originally thought, and that despite Joyce coming across as the grieving, hysterical mother, she was right all along.
I went to the morgue last night, Joyce. It wasn't him. Will's body was a fake. This whole time you were right.
This moment leads Hopper to trust Joyce 100% moving forward, and to be even more skeptical of the goings-on at Hawkins' lab. Number 36. The Russians interrogate Steve and Robin. This moment has it all. For starters, it has so many hilarious lines. With Steve doing anything he can to convince the Russians that he is telling the truth, and that they are just some kids that work at an ice cream shop.
Who do you work for?
For the millionth time, I work at Scoops Ahoy. Look at my outfit. Look at my outfit. You think I just wear this?
Only for the Russians not to believe him and give him his contractually required season's beating. It's even more hilarious after they are drugged, and Steve and Robin can barely contain their laughter as they continue to answer the Russians' questions.
Who do you work for?
Scoops.
Scoops Ahoy.
There's also a really heartfelt moment, as after a failed escape attempt, Steve and Robin end up on the ground, tied to chairs with no hope of freeing themselves. Robin breaks down laughing at the absurdity of their situation, before opening up to Steve as she thinks they are going to die. She talks about how she didn't expect to like Steve, as well as reminiscing about their class together, something that is built on in a later scene. Steve also opens up, talking about his regrets about who he used to be, seeing some of his former priorities as nothing but bullshit. A nice callback to Nancy calling him out in season 2.
Everything that people say you should care about, it's all just bullshit.
He also laments about the fact that he failed the class, and if he had paid more attention, he may not be in his current situation in life where he has no idea what he is going to do for his future.
Maybe you could help me pass the class. Maybe instead of being here, I'd be on my way to college right now.
I just found this moment to be really great, as it further deepened Steve and Robin's growing friendship.
I liked being your schmuck. It was fun while it lasted.
It was.
This great character work, paired with the comedy of this scene, is what makes it such a great moment. Number 35. Hopper and Eleven fight at the cabin. I think this season 2 scene is great, as it highlights both Hopper and Eleven's frustrations at the situation that they are in a way that the audience can empathize with both of them. Eleven is tired of waiting, not being able to contact her friends, and being locked up in the cabin. It doesn't help that Hopper has constantly broken his promises to her, making her doubt his word, and if she will ever be allowed to leave. She feels like a prisoner.
You're gonna see him soon.
Friends don't lie.
What?
You say soon on day 21. You now say soon on day 326.
What is this? You're like counting the days now, like you're some kind of prisoner?
From Hopper's perspective, he is concerned for Eleven's safety, as he knows if the wrong people find her, she could be in terrible danger. He's angry at her for breaking his rules and putting herself in jeopardy.
You put us in danger. You realize that, right?
The fight itself is intense and highly emotional, as they are firing back at one another, like Hopper calling Eleven a brat.
You're a brat. You know what that word means? How about that be your word for the day, huh? Brat.
And Elle shooting back by comparing Hopper to Papa.
You are like Papa!
This scene shows how difficult it would be trying to discipline your daughter who has superpowers, as she is able to use her abilities to thwart your attempts at punishment. Eleven's door slam and scream are also so powerful that it shatters the windows of the cabin. The scene is also incredibly well acted, as both parties really nail the anger and frustration that they are feeling. Number 34. The Upside Down and the Right Side Up. This moment is a collection of sequences where, after going through Watergate, the older kids and younger kids interact with each other while being on different planes of existence. I loved every moment where the older kids, being in the Upside Down, try to communicate and interact with Dustin, Lucas, Erica, and Max. There was just something whimsical about these moments, as we see the older kids touching the light particles to signal that they need help. It was also a great touch when the younger kids whip out the light bright, giving them an even better method of communication. The moment we see the younger kids biking down the street before the camera flips and goes to the Upside Down, with the older kids doing the same thing, is one of my favorite shots in the entire show. When they meet up at Eddie's trailer and they tie a sheet so that they can climb through the gate, it is again such a fun and cool scene. Seeing the perspective of them looking at one another through the roof, but they are both standing on the ground, I mean, it's just so creative and fun and awesome. So yeah, I really love these little sequences. Number 33, the big fight at the bus. This was a pretty tense scene, as tensions among the party bubble over. 11, knowing where the compass will lead them, has been purposefully changing its direction and lying about it. She knows where the gate is and is scared to go back to the lab, knowing that the bad men will take her and lock her back up. Lucas, who has been skeptical of 11 for some time, realizes what she has been doing and calls her out on it.
If she could slam doors in her mind, she could definitely screw up a compass. I saw her wiping her nose on the tracks. She was using her powers.
Mike immediately comes to 11's defense, with him and Lucas exchanging some heated words. We understand why Lucas is so angry, as he feels like 11 is intentionally preventing them from rescuing Will. Lucas is also right in his assertion that she knows where Will is, but won't bring them to him.
I don't think Lucas really disliked Elle. I think he just disliked the situation. He was trying to find his friend. It just didn't seem right.
Lucas calls 11 a monster.
But did you ever stop to think that maybe she's the monster?
Which cuts deep for her, and her being a traumatized child, she struggles to process the fight well, becoming overwhelmed and blasting Lucas. Even though Mike and Lucas were just fighting, Mike immediately runs over to see if Lucas is okay. In his concern for Lucas, Mike lashes out at 11, making her feel unwanted.
Why would you do that? What's wrong with you?
I really appreciate this moment for ingraining the ideology of friends don't lie into the party. It is also the culmination of Lucas not trusting 11, and after this fight, they are eventually able to reconvene and move past this incident. I think the young actors did a great job of showing all the emotions their characters are feeling. Number 32. The Ghostbusters go to school. I know not everyone loves the scene, as some feel it to be a little too nostalgia baity, but I really like it. I enjoy seeing all of the different dynamics between the kids and their parents before they head off to school. All of their moms are so happy and encouraging them to pose in their costumes, and as a result, there are some really funny poses. Mike is also having absolutely none of it, as he has been acting out and generally unhappy since losing 11. His attitude provides a nice contrast with the other kids. Even though he should be excited about going to school with his friends as the Ghostbusters, he can't help but still be a little angry. This is also our introduction to Erica, and we get to see how she antagonizes her older brother. I like the little detail about Will's costume looking more shabby than the others, as his mom isn't as well off and probably had to make it herself. There's also the two Venkman problem, as neither Mike nor Lucas wanted to go as Winston, which ends up giving us a pretty funny exchange.
Then you be Winston. I can't.
Why not?
Because you're not black. I didn't say that.
The moment also has a horror element to it, as they are forced to live every kid's nightmare, being the only ones who dressed up in costume for Halloween. This would legitimately be awful as a kid and make you feel so embarrassed.
I was just walking down the halls dressed like this, and everyone else was wearing regular clothes.
All in all, I think this moment is great and offers so much more than nostalgia. And say what you will about their quality, but it's pretty cool that Finn Wolfhard was cast in the Ghostbuster reboot after this. Number 31. Joyce talks to Will through the Christmas lights. This is such an iconic moment for the show, and has added so much to its aesthetic. It's not only great for its visual elements, but it's also such a fun and creative way of propelling the story forward. Joyce thinks she is losing her mind, but she is so desperate to find Will, as well as feeling his presence, that she is willing to fully commit to something crazy. She is relieved that he is alive, but terrified knowing that he is not safe. We really feel for Joyce as she clutches that small bundle of lights as if she were clinging on to Will himself. Joyce using the lights to make an alphabet Will can communicate through helps to also further the mystery, as him writing right here has the audience asking even more questions. Will's message of run is also terrifying as we see the Demogorgon bursting through the wall. An absolutely terrific moment that has added so much to the show and its mythos. Number 30, Mike's speech to Eleven. This might be one of my most controversial picks, as I know for a lot of people this scene didn't work. But for me, it really did. One criticism I have seen levied against it is that it is too cheesy, and yeah, it is cheesy, but it's that good kind of cheese. To me, this moment is such quintessential Stranger Things, as Mike being vulnerable and telling Eleven just how much he loves her is what helps to set Eleven apart from Vecna. Vecna is completely detached from anyone. He sees the worst in humanity and seeks to become a predator to restore what he sees as balance.
Humans are a unique type of pest, multiplying and poisoning our world, all while enforcing a structure of their own.
He loves nothing and no one. He is completely alone, and as his number indicates, he is one, singular. 11 is his perfect counter, as she has been able to grow and care for others, and have others care for her in turn. She doesn't fight for herself, but to help protect the ones that she loves. She isn't alone, as the people who love her are just as willing to lay their lives on the line to help and protect her, as she is for them. 11 has experienced the virtues people have to offer, and this motivation to protect them gives her strength. Her powers are fueled by love, and yeah, it's cheesy. It might not work in a different show, but I think it works beautifully in Stranger Things. Mike's speech to 11 brings this idea to the forefront, as their relationship and love for each other not only changed both of their lives for the better, but continues to give each other strength. I think Mike's journey this season of being more open about his feelings pays off massively here, as hearing someone tell you that they love you is sometimes exactly what you need to hear.
I love you for exactly who you are.
His journey to get here feels authentic, as many teenage boys in their first real relationship can often get into their own head about expressing themselves. His confession to 11 feels extremely satisfying, as he exposes himself completely, ignoring his own insecurities and self-doubt, as he knows in this moment that 11 needs him and he would do anything for her. His belief and love for her is on full display, and I think this bold declaration extends beyond the characters and their situation and feels like a declaration from the show itself. I also enjoy how Mike channels his inner Eren Yeager, telling 11 to continue to fight, no matter what they are up against.
You have to fight! Fight! Fight!
In my opinion, this is a beautiful scene, and more than deserving of its spot on the list. Number 29. Steve babysits in the Upside Down. After getting his shit kicked in by Billy, Steve finds himself half conscious in the back of a car being driven by a 13-year-old. Safe to say, he's having a rough night. The kids went directly against his orders to stay on the bench and instead insisted they put themselves in danger to try and help the others. After arriving at the destination, Steve is doing his best to lay down the law, but the kids are not listening.
We are not going down there right now. I made myself clear.
He realizes that the only way to protect the kids is to take matters into his own hands and lead the expedition into the tunnels infected by the Upside Down.
Any you little shits die down here, I'm getting the blame. Got it, dipshit? From here on out, I'm leading the way.
I really love the look of this scene, with the Upside Down particles slowly floating through the air, as well as Steve and the kids being geared up with protective goggles and masks. The mission itself proves to be incredibly important, as by torching this massive section, the damage they did is enough to help get the bit of Mind Flayer out of Will and to distract the Demodogs from 11 and Hopper. It feels like an excellently well written moment, as it has a major impact on the success of the other group's missions, tying everything together with a beautiful bow. This moment also gives us some closure on the Dart storyline, with the group coming face to face with the Demodog, and Dustin using his connection to the creature pressure to get past him. The actual escape is also super tense, as you are worried that they will be overrun by demodogs before they can get out. I think this is a fantastic scene that helps to really tie all the climaxes of the season together. Number 28. Karen and Nancy have a heart-to-heart. I love this moment as it helps to flesh out the mother-daughter dynamic between Karen and Nancy, as well as exploring some of the struggles they share as women living in a patriarchal society. Nancy is incredibly driven, and up to this point, she has been go, 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 trying to make a name for herself at the Hawkins Post. Throughout the season, we have seen how she has struggled at work, with many of her male co-workers belittling her, humiliating her, and making her feel small.
I know how it sounds,
but you've got proof.
It's an interesting look into the setting of the 80s, as it is tough for Nancy, a young woman, to gain the respect in the workplace that she deserves. After her attempts of being taken seriously leave her feeling broken,
that was humiliating. Humiliating.
Her mom takes notice and has a talk with her. Seeing Nancy's vulnerability in this scene is a nice change of pace for her character, as it is the first time in a while that she is left unsure how to proceed. Her struggles at the post are something she has tried to talk about with Jonathan, but he is unable to fully understand what she is going through. Having Karen be the person she is finally able to fully open up to makes so much sense, as she is able to understand Nancy in a way that others might not. Hearing Karen open up about how hard life can be and how proud she is of Nancy is really wholesome. The moment where Karen starts by saying I, but corrects herself to most people.
This world, it beats you up again and again until eventually most people, they just stop trying.
Shows that life has been tough for her in certain ways, and she has been forced to give up some parts of herself. Seeing Nancy fight so hard for what she wants and stand up for herself makes Karen so incredibly proud of her daughter for doing what she feels like she couldn't.
I'm proud of you.
Proud of me for getting fired.
That you stood up for yourself.
I also appreciate how Nancy tries to tell her mom that she is stronger than she knows, and Nancy's strength is something that she got from her mother. I just really think this is a sweet moment, and oddly unique in the sense that we don't get too many scenes in the series with a mother-daughter relationship as the focus. Number 27. Eleven destroys the Demogorgon. There are so many great moments in this sequence. With Brenner and the bad men showing up to the school to try and take Eleven, we get a great confrontation. It's chilling as we see Eleven mind melt a bunch of Brenner's crew. After seeing this, Brenner is all the more impressed and does his best to try and win Eleven over to his side, trying to get her to go back with him to the lab. However, after escaping Hawkins' lab, Eleven has experienced so many new things that have changed her from Brenner's little pet project. She has been treated like an actual person rather than a tool to be used. She has grown to know friendship and has tasted the deliciousness of egos. For Eleven, there is no going back, and she rejects Brenner, instead calling out for Mike. The scene gets even better, as now that there is a ton of blood from the dead cronies, the Demogorgon is summoned and starts murdering everyone, except Brenner. Brenner just gets a little cut. With Eleven exhausted, things are looking grim. There is a sweet moment as Mike tells Eleven about the snowball dance and promises that he will take her, calling back to when Mike first explained what a promise was.
Promise.
It's truly epic, as the lights are flashing like crazy, and the kids are in a panic as they try to get Lucas's wrist rocket ready, with the Demogorgon bearing down on them. As Lucas takes aim at the Demogorgon, you know that it's not going to be very effective. But then Lucas takes a shot, and the Demogorgon goes flying across the room, and you're like, excuse me? Like the characters, you are confused, and for a split second you think, damn, I guess that rock really was the monster killer. It's a great moment of the show playing with the audience, as it is not Lucas's wrist rocket that has sent the Demogorgon flying, it's Eleven. It's a really emotional scene as Eleven pushes herself to her limits, destroying the Demogorgon, but in the process, putting herself in a terrible position. Her little goodbye to Mike is extremely sad, and as the party watches on helplessly, Eleven and the Demogorgon disappear, leaving their fate unknown.
Was that we weren't going to play it like an action movie, we were going to play it sadder and slower and more tragic.
A really powerful moment and a great climax for the kids' journey in Season 1. Number 26. Steve and Nancy talk about growth. I really love this scene from part 2 of season 4. It feels incredibly validating as the audience who has seen Steve come so far in his personal journey, learning from all his mistakes and growing into an incredible person. I really appreciate Steve acknowledging the importance of being able to learn from one's mistakes and to take those lessons and use them to adapt and change, striving to be a better person.
I get a big enough thump on my head, I can change, you know? I can learn.
I love that Steve recognizes the role Nancy played in getting him to change, as their relationship and its untimely end were so important for his development.
Just thank you.
Thank me.
Yeah.
For
giving my head the biggest thump of its life 2 years ago. I needed it. Changed my life.
The moment feels a little bittersweet, as now with his newfound perspective, Steve wonders what could have been had he changed sooner. Had he been the man he is now, then would he and Nancy have been able to work it out? Nancy is the one that got away for Steve, and where he has been focused on his future, he can't help but look at Nancy and think what could have been. I also really like how the scene relates Steve's personal growth to moving forward, and how it is worth it to try and grow, even if it is a slow and painful process. I think this scene showcases some of Stranger Things' excellent character work, as well as continues to develop Steve and Nancy's relationship. Number 25. Max and Eleven show up at Heather's house. Eleven and Max are on the case as they search for Heather, the missing lifeguard, and suspect that Billy may have something to do with it. Eleven has used her powers to see that Heather is in desperate need of help, and with them already having found a bloody lifeguard bag, and with it pouring rain outside, an ominous mood has been set. The show plays with the audience's expectations, as when the two girls enter Heather's house, we are expecting to find another clue, pointing to the terrible fate that befell Heather. Instead, Eleven and Max walk in on a nice dinner, where Billy is being hosted by Heather and her parents. Even though the scene looks to be peaceful, the audience's alarm bells are still ringing, as there is an eeriness that seeps in, knowing that Billy has been flayed. Billy schmoozing and behaving like a fine young gentleman is an act that we have seen him do before, but it feels more nefarious this time.
Janet, Tom, this is my sister Maxine.
Also, having sensed Eleven before, Billy's extra interest in Eleven puts the audience on edge.
Sorry, I did not quite catch your name.
Elle.
Elle.
Heather walking in with a full tray of freshly baked chocolate chip cookies adds to the contrast to how normal everything seems and with how creepy it feels.
Do you girls want a cookie? They're fresh out of the oven.
It's a trap!
Since everything looks fine, and it's kind of awkward to just burst into a stranger's house soaking wet, Eleven and Max decide to leave, more confused than when they first arrived. This is just in time for the false pretenses to be dropped, as Heather's parents are drugged and knocked out so that they can be brought before the Mind Flayer. We feel for Ted, as he is utterly confused as his own daughter seemingly turns on him and has something awful planned for them. I also like the use of the song American Pie by Don McLean in this scene, as it helps build the atmosphere, creating a chilling juxtaposition between the groovy music and what is actually taking place on screen. This is a very well constructed scene that I really enjoy. Number 24. Eddie's guitar solo. This scene feels truly inspired by the rule of cool and a desire to create a fun, memorable scene. The concept alone of Eddie shredding on his guitar to distract the Demobats is just so awesome. It makes me giddy just thinking about it. I like how it takes a core aspect of Eddie's character, his love of guitar and metal music, and gives it the ultimate showcase. This helps to further Eddie's strong characterization in a really exciting way. I think the song choice for the scene helps to elevate it to the next level, with Master of Puppets being the perfect choice. The lyrics resonate strongly, as in essence, Vecna is the puppet master, with his invisible strings controlling the hive mind and his victims. It's also a fun piece of trivia that Master of Puppets was released March 3rd, 1986, and Eddie's concert takes place on March 27th, 1986, meaning Eddie learned the song pretty quickly, with only a few weeks separating the two events. I also appreciated Eddie dedicating his performance to Chrissy.
Chrissy,
This is for you.
Showing that even though they didn't know each other very well, Eddie still feels immense sorrow at her passing. He wasn't able to do anything to help her when she died, but now, in this moment, he is able to try and avenge her by defeating Vecna. This moment is also intercut with Max trying to run away from Vecna into her mindscape, and Erica fighting off the jocks, adding an intensity to both encounters. When it comes to Eddie's guitar solo, I think Dustin said it best.
Most metal
Number 23. Billy vs. Steve. This confrontation had been building for all of season 2, as Billy came into Hawkins ready to challenge Steve for his spot as the king. This is a fantastic conclusion to that subplot, as well as the ongoing conflict between Billy and Max. It starts incredibly strong, as Steve comes out to greet Billy with some incredible one-liners.
Am I dreaming or is that you, Harrington?
Yeah, it's me, don't cream your pants.
Billy actually makes a great point about the scenario being really weird.
This whole situation, Harrington, I don't know. It's giving me the heebie-jeebies.
He finds his stepsister at a stranger's house with Steve Harrington, and Steve is lying about it. Billy is pissed about having to go on this wild goose chase in the first place, and so now that he has found Max, he decides to take this opportunity to let out all of his anger. He immediately focuses in on Lucas before Steve steps up to try and protect the kids. Steve takes his job as a babysitter seriously, and having learned from his fight against Jonathan, he is ready to take Billy down. And maybe that would have happened had Billy not domed Steve in the head with a plate and then proceeded to absolutely destroy him. I find the fight itself to be really dynamic, with some nice dodges, hard punches, and Billy starting to act like a maniac.
Looks like you got some fire in you after all, huh?
With Steve on the ground and getting absolutely fed by Billy, Max is given the opportunity to empower herself, as she takes matters into her own hands and drugs Billy. With Billy now in a vulnerable state, Max lays down the law that she won't be bullied and threatened by him anymore, that he can't interfere with who she hangs out with, and that moving forward, things are going to be different.
From here on out, you leave me and my friends alone. Do you understand?
It's a really powerful moment, and despite much of the focus being on Billy and Steve's dynamic, I actually think this moment with Max steals the show, and is what elevates it so high up this list. Number 22. The death of Chrissy Cunningham. What I think makes this moment so great is that it sets the tone for the rest of season 4. Throughout the first episode, we have gotten a pretty big focus on Chrissy as we see her struggling. We get a really sweet scene between her and Eddie, which makes us think that they are trying to establish these two new characters with an interesting dynamic between them. We also get to see that Chrissy has some sort of connection to the Upside Down, piquing the viewer's curiosity as we wonder how that will tie in with our main characters.
Consider my interest piqued.
The show has done a good job making Chrissy an instantly likable and sympathetic character, with a lot of intrigue surrounding her. We think she is being set up for a season-long arc, only for her to suffer a horrific death by the end of the first episode. Her death is gruesome and establishes the cruel way Vecna kills his victims. She is a prisoner in her own mind, forced to endure terrifying scenes as she is unable to escape. It feels like Vecna is playing with his food, every bit of fear exhibited by his victims adding to the flavor of the kill. This is also our first time getting a full look at Vecna, establishing him to the audience as a super intimidating villain and a new face to the Upside Down. I feel like season 4 really leaned more into the show's horror elements than previous seasons, and I think Chrissy's death does a great job creating that initial atmosphere. I also want to highlight that Eddie's perspective also adds to the scene, as it allows us to see what's happening to Chrissy in the real world. Eddie has no idea what's going on, and his panic as he tries to snap her out of her trance adds to the tension of the scene. Having someone witness what happens to her, but being entirely helpless to actually do anything to stop it, adds to the horror of the moment, as well as establishing an obstacle the party will have to overcome in the future. Despite only being around for a single episode, Chrissy's death does so much to propel the season forward. Number 21. Will gets mind flayed. Bob Newby was a great person, but he may have given the single worst bit of advice ever. With Will's connection to the Upside Down growing, and him sometimes finding himself back there, he searches for a way to deal with what he believes to be nightmarish visions. When Will finds himself in the Upside Down again, he does what comes naturally, as he makes a run for it. However, with Bob's words ringing in his ears,
"This time, I didn't run. This time, I stood my ground.
And with him trying to find a way to stop living in fear, he stops running and faces the massive smoke monster that has been chasing him. It feels like it is about to be an incredibly empowering moment for Will as he finally stands his ground against his tormentor. Unfortunately, that could not be farther from the truth. The Mind Flayer fully engulfs Will in a horrific display of his all-encompassing power. Will is completely overcome as he is filled entirely with the evil entity that has been haunting him.
I felt it everywhere.
The visual is insane, especially when the show cuts between Will standing alone on the field with what is really happening to him. Bob's easy peasy feels somehow nefarious, almost as if he set Will up.
Easy peasy, right?
The moment is really intense and does so much to set up Will's role for the rest of the season, with him joining the Hive Mind and later acting as the Mind Flayer's spy. Number 20. Dustin tells Eddie's uncle how he died. Eddie's death was an incredibly emotional moment as the lovable outcast wormed his way into our hearts throughout the season before meeting his untimely end. He had a great one-season arc as he was exposed to the Upside Down and in the end chose to fight for what he believed in. It was a really powerful moment.
I think it's my year, Henderson.
However, as sad as Eddie's death was, the moment that really got me is when Dustin tells Eddie's uncle Wayne how Eddie died. Part of the tragedy of Eddie's character is that despite being innocent and doing everything he could to help protect the people of Hawkins from the Upside Down, he will be remembered forevermore as a satanic worshipping murderer.
Eddie Munson, the leader of this cult and prime suspect in the murders, has been missing since the earthquake.
And despite everyone being convinced Eddie was guilty of these horrific crimes, his uncle never stopped believing in him. He knew his nephew, knew what kind of person he was, and what he was capable of doing. He knows in his heart that Eddie is innocent, even despite everyone telling him otherwise.
My nephew is innocent. He's still missing. I'll put up as many posters as I need till he's found.
Seeing Wayne's belief in Eddie is heartwarming as he continues to put up missing person flyers to try and find his nephew. The posters of Eddie are being defaced, but Wayne persists nonetheless. But even with all of his belief in Eddie, Wayne has no idea what happened to him. Enter Dustin. Dustin and Eddie's bond was a great part of the 4th season, with Eddie taking Dustin under his wing. When Dustin sees Wayne, he knows he has to tell him what happened to his nephew. It's heartbreaking seeing both Dustin and Wayne break down, as Dustin tells him that Eddie was innocent and died a hero.
He isn't just innocent, Mr. Munson, he's a hero.
Dustin's words to Wayne help to give him closure and finally allows him to start the grieving process. I think it's powerful that Dustin and Wayne don't even know each other, but they have a bond from their shared love of Eddie. Eddie's death in itself is sad, but man, this moment is gut-wrenching. Even though the world at large will remember Eddie as a murderer, Dustin and Wayne know he was really a hero, and that's something. Number 19. The vanishing of Will Byers. The moment that started it all, the impetus for the entire show, begins with this little boy going missing. This moment sets up so much for the show moving forward. Firstly, seeing Will and Dustin riding their bikes home sets up the show's iconic association with the kids biking around everywhere. I also appreciate how Will is a rock star throughout the whole sequence, doing everything the audience wants him to do. When he feels like he is being stalked, he doesn't venture further into the woods to check it out. Instead, he does the smart thing and immediately books it home. Once he gets home, he immediately calls for help, only to find that no one is there. Bad luck. Taking a peek outside to see that he was followed home, he then tries to use the telephone to call for help, but it's not working. Knowing that no one can help him, he runs to the shed and arms himself with a gun, pointing it at the only entrance. I gotta hand it to the kid. He proved himself very resourceful under the stressful circumstances. I think this also helps to establish the show's credibility, as its characters are smart and will think logically to try and save themselves, rather than some horror movies where every character is an idiot and are doing everything in their power to get killed. The way Will vanishes into thin air leaves the audience wanting to know what just happened. This moment does such a great job of getting the audience fully invested in the show, as they want to know what happened to Will and what was it that was chasing after him. A truly excellent job in establishing the main goal of the season, finding Will, as well as some of the more supernatural elements that will be at play. I also think having Will be the one to go missing was a great decision, as there is just something so innocent about him in season 1. Obviously, all the kids are innocent, but Will somehow feels more so. Maybe it's the mushroom haircut or his general demeanor, but the kid has a face made for missing milk cartons. Number 18. Fighting the Flayed in the hospital. When Nancy and the gang return to the hospital in search of Mrs. Driscoll, they instead find a trap waiting for them, as the Flayed Ted and Bruce from the Hawkins Post are waiting to attack Nancy.
We were hoping you might come back.
The scene is really creepy, with Ted and Bruce antagonizing Nancy.
Nancy Drew, where are you?
I think it was a great decision to have it be Ted and Bruce that Nancy is forced to confront in this moment, as they were part of the work environment that had been doing so much to belittle and humiliate her. Nancy standing up to them here, especially now that they aren't just assholes but part of an evil hive mind, feels like a continuation of her season-long arc. The lead she was following about the psycho rats is validated by what has happened to Mrs. Driscoll and the people from the Post. It shows that Nancy should continue to trust her instincts, as in the end she was right to pursue her leads. Ted and Bruce chasing Nancy and Jonathan through the hospital halls with dead bodies scattered around and the lights flickering is a really exciting and freaky scene. There's a cool moment where the hive mind nature is highlighted, with Ted being hit in the face and Bruce feeling it. As Nancy and Jonathan are able to fight off their former employers, Ted and Bruce gooify themselves and turn into a Cronenberg monstrosity. It's gross seeing the former men's meat piles slowly merge together. The mini meat flayer chases after Nancy, and there's another cool moment where it disassembles itself in order to get to the other side of a locked door. It's starting to seem hopeless for Nancy until Eleven bursts in and takes the fight to the meat flayer. It's cool as hell seeing Eleven just ragdoll this thing. I feel like this moment is so great because it feels poignant for Nancy's season 3 story, as well as being a really cool and stressful action sequence. Number 17. The kids play Dungeons and Dragons. The opening scene of the kids playing Dungeons and Dragons is such an important scene for the show as a whole. In the immediate, it is the way in which we are introduced to our main characters, as well as establishing the dynamic between them. As the party comes across a Demogorgon in their game, they struggle, deciding on how to proceed. It's Will's turn, but he hesitates, with Dustin telling him to save himself and cast a protection spell, while Lucas is urging him to cast a fireball, a risky move, but one that would ultimately be of greater help to defeating the Demogorgon. Will eventually decides to cast Fireball, putting his own safety in jeopardy to help the rest of the party. When he rolls the dice, they can't find where it lands, leaving Will's fate up in the air, as Mike never officially saw the roll. However, Will eventually does find the dice, and they see that he rolled a 7, meaning that his Fireball missed and the Demogorgon got him. Despite not needing to, Will tells Mike the roll and that the Demogorgon got him, foreshadowing to his imminent disappearance.
It was a 7. The Demogorgon. It got me.
The scene does a great job of establishing Will as a character, as we see him risk his own safety for others, as well as being honest in a situation that doesn't really benefit him. I think this is crucial, considering Will is about to disappear, and rescuing him will be the main objective of the characters moving forward.
He could have played it safe, but he didn't. He put himself in danger to help the party.
I also really love the scene because there's just something so comfy and nostalgic about it. Being a kid and playing games in your parents' basement feels like something that a lot of people can relate to, and this moment really captures that feeling of fun times from childhood. This scene is also so important for the show as a whole, with D&D being the main framing device from which we view and interact with the Upside Down. It is the lens with which we view everything. The language of D&D becoming the language of Stranger Things.
The Mind Flayer. It's a monster from an unknown dimension. It's so ancient that it doesn't even know its true home.
The show uses D&D throughout the entirety of its run, explaining to the audience the stakes and antagonists with this in mind.
Who's Vecna? A dark wizard. A spellcaster.
I love this decision, as it helps give the show its aesthetic and is a strong narrative device. Number 16. Steve and Dustin on the train tracks. One of the best decisions the Duffers ever made was pairing Steve and Dustin together in season 2. They are one of the best friendships in the show, and it all started here. They are such an unlikely duo whose differences make them so fun to watch interact.
Two characters that are so different from each other can relate to each other in a very comedic and endearing way.
This pairing really breathed new life into Steve's character after Nancy broke up with him, as he could have easily been tossed to the wayside of the show as an inconsequential character. This pairing starts him on his babysitter arc, which helped him become one of the most beloved characters on the show. For Dustin, it was great seeing him interact with an older male character, acting as a mentor and a big brother to help show him the ropes. The scene on the train tracks, to me, feels like where the characters first start to develop their bond. Dustin is talking to Steve about what happened with Dart and how he was trying to impress Max. Steve struggles to understand why anyone would be impressed by a weird slimy creature.
I mean, why would a girl like some nasty slug anyway?
An interdimensional slug because it's awesome.
But he offers Dustin advice on how to try and get girls to like him.
Key with girls is just acting like you don't care.
Even if you do?
Yeah, exactly. It drives him nuts.
He also tells him not to fall in love and get his heart broken, as Steve is still reeling from his own heartbreak. When Steve starts talking about the electricity, it's a great way to see how Steve and Dustin are very different people.
Your character is from a totally different world than my character. Although we're going through something that's similar, we both kind of bring a different thing to it.
Dustin tries to use science and logic to understand what Steve means by electricity, as those are things that he's able to understand. Whereas for Steve, the electricity is more of a feeling you get. You'll know it when you see it kind of deal. Even after their talk, Steve can tell that Dustin is still feeling down, and so he tells him the secret to the Harrington signature hair.
4 puffs of the Farrah Fawcett spray.
With Farrah Fawcett's hairspray being Steve's secret stuff, the two really bond, and it's so sweet seeing Dustin using the very same hairspray later in the season at the snowball dance. Number 15. 11 flips the van. With the bad men tracking 11 back to the Wheeler's house, all hell is about to break loose. There is such a chaotic energy as Lucas, who had gone on a solo scouting mission, tries to warn the rest of the party about the bad men being ready to pounce and capture them.
The bad men are coming!
Mike yelling at his mom, telling her that he left the country, is another highlight.
If anyone asks where I am, I've left the country.
There's a great visual of the goons coming after them, only for the kids to mount their bikes and book it. As the audience, you're wondering how they can outrun the vans when they only have bikes. But the bikes offer them some advantages even though they are much slower. Their small size allows them to cut across people's backyards and take shortcuts that the vans can't take. When they find themselves blocked off in all directions with a van coming towards them, we get one of the most iconic shots in the whole show, as 11 from the back seat of Mike's bike throws the van coming towards them into the air, where it flips over them and blocks the other cars that were pursuing them. It's such a cool moment as the characters and audience are all in awe at what just happened.
That was the single coolest thing that has ever happened.
Once they've escaped, we also get to see Lucas come around on 11, accepting her into the group and apologizing for doubting her earlier. For her part, 11 apologizes as well for lying, and to seal the apology, Lucas and Mike shake on it. I think this small part adds to the moment, as it shows that our group is now fully united and will not back down in the face of seemingly impossible odds. Number 14. The sauna test. The sauna test is a standout moment from season 3, with Billy getting lured into a trap to try and find out if he truly is an agent of the Mind Flayer. It plays out almost like a reverse horror scene, with our heroes trying to lure the monster into a trap, with Billy on edge and in a scary situation. Once they get him into the sauna and crank up the heat, Billy finds himself in immense pain. Dacre Montgomery, Billy's actor, is amazing in this scene, as we get to see a full range of emotions as he tries to escape. At first, he is consumed by rage, angry that these kids have trapped him there for some kind of prank.
You kids think this is some kind of sick prank, huh? You little shits think this is funny?
But the longer he spends in it, he realizes that they must know something, and he starts to break down. Billy is an asshole, but he's not a murdering asshole, and the things he has been forced to do as a minion of the Mind Flayer have left him racked with guilt and regret. He didn't want to do the things he did, but he wasn't strong enough to fight back. He begs for Max's forgiveness, hoping she will absolve him of his sins.
Not my fault, okay, Max, please. Tried to stop him, okay, I did. Please believe me, Max.
However, while Billy is legitimately remorseful and breaking down, the Mind Flayer sees his emotional outburst as an opportunity to try and free Billy when the party isn't expecting it. He makes Billy continue to plead as a distraction before he arms himself and tries to attack Max. In terms of the Mind Flayer's puppets, the jacked Billy is much tougher to contain than the 90-pound Will ever was. With seemingly enhanced strength, Billy breaks free and manages to get his hands on 11, choking her out before Mike steps in to help. 11 force blasts Billy, but him choking her has left her feeling vulnerable and scared for the first time in a while. I think this is a really great scene, and I love how we get to see into the heart of Billy and how he really feels about the things he has been forced to do. It helps to humanize a character that has been really unlikable up until this point. Number 13. Vecna breaks Max. There are some moments in stories, as something is happening, you can't help but doubt it, even as you are actively watching it happen. Vecna breaking Max is one of those moments for me. With 11 preoccupied for a second, Vecna has a free moment to finish the job on Max. I remember watching her start to hover and thinking, they're not gonna kill Max, no way. And I kept telling myself this with each limb of Max's that Vecna broke. However, the way in which I said it became much more panicked as I was unable to believe my eyes. And in a way I was right, as 11 is able to fight off Vecna the second before it is too late. Except, it was too late. Max falls to the ground, all her limbs broken, and with her eyes unable to see anything. It is absolutely heart-wrenching.
I can't feel or see anything.
I have to give a massive props to Sadie Sink and Lucas McLaughlin, as their performances in this scene are incredible. Max verbalizing just how scared she is, not being able to move or see, not wanting to die. It's just so sad.
I'm so scared, I'm so scared, I'm so scared. I don't want to die, I'm not ready.
I also really empathize with Lucas here, because he is so utterly helpless in this situation. He wants to help her, to save her, to tell her everything will be okay, but in the end, there's nothing he can actually do. And when Max actually does succumb to her injuries, it is an absolute gut punch, something that doesn't feel real. The audience doesn't have time to process this when the clock chimes, signaling Vecna succeeded. We were so worried about whether or not Max lived or died that we forgot what the consequences of her dying were. The gates merging make her death sting all the more, as their failure to protect her has far-reaching consequences for the rest of Hawkins. This moment to me is so powerful and emotional, and I can't help but to tear up every time I watch it. Number 12. Fighting the Demodogs at the bus. This is one of the great action set pieces of Season 2. I really like how they reused an iconic location from Season 1, the abandoned school bus, and made it the central location for another amazing scene. It's really fun seeing the group build up the bus as they try to create a strong base that they can retreat to. There is some great tension in the lead up as we see them setting up their trap to try and capture Dart. There are also some fun undercurrents prevalent throughout the scene, like how Lucas has brought Max with him, trying to convince her that the story he told her is actually true. I think this scene does so much to develop the Lucas and Max dynamic, with Max opening up to him about her family, as well as Dustin seeing the electricity between them as they cling to each other whilst in danger. When the Demodogs arrive, they don't take the bait. This leads to Steve offering himself as live bait, trying to get Dart to fall into their trap. It's Steve putting himself on the line to try and protect the others, a character trait that continues to become more prevalent with each season. The realization that there isn't just one Demodog, but a bunch of them is amazing, as it immediately ups the stakes and makes the situation way more frightening. The party had tried to lead the Demodogs into a trap, but it feels like instead they were the ones who were tricked. Steve earns his action hero stripes as he takes some swings at the Demodogs before hustling back to the bus. Hearing the Demodogs crawling on top of the bus is unnerving, as we know they are going to try and break in. happen. Had it not been for Double Agent Will, the crew and the bus would have probably all died here. All in all, this is such a tense and amazing scene that I look forward to on every rewatch. Number 11. Finding Will's body. Up until this moment, even though Will has gone missing, the party felt like looking for him was an adventure. They felt like it was only a matter of time before they found him, safe and sound, and they could all go back home and play another game of D&D. However, when Will's body is found in the quarry, the reality of their situation hits in a way that it hadn't before. At first, they are in denial. There's no way that's Will. He can't be dead.
It's not Will. It can't be.
But as they see the body emerge from the water, they have the slow, crushing realization that it is Will. Will isn't missing, he's dead. They found his body and everything. He isn't coming back. Not now, not ever. Seeing his body makes all of this feel so real. Where they previously had the hope of finding him safe, they are now forced to come to terms with the fact that their friend is dead.
We wanted this discovery of this body, and we wanted to feel the impact of that on our kids and really remind everyone how serious this is.
For Mike, it's too much to handle. He can't be there a second longer and leaves as fast as he can. He rushes home and breaks down in his mother's arms. There's nothing to be done except to grieve his friend. I also think seeing Mike hugging his mom in this moment highlights just how young these kids are at the start of the series and how overwhelming something like this can be for them. I also think the use of music in this scene is incredible, with Peter Gabriel's rendition of Heroes elevating the emotion of the scene. Now obviously, this isn't actually Will's body. However, the kids seeing this fake gives such a real and genuine moment of the three kids trying to deal with the loss of a friend, and I think that is what makes this moment so great. Number 10. Max and Lucas plan a movie date. The first entry into the coveted top 10 is a bit of a quieter moment. In fact, not a single word is exchanged in the whole scene, and I think this helps give the scene a really distinct feel. Ever since Billy's death, Max had entered a state of depression and self-loathing. She hated herself for standing by and watching Billy die, for a small part of her secretly wishing something would happen to him so that he wouldn't make her life miserable any longer. She feels terrible about this.
And I've tried to forgive myself. I've tried, but I can't.
And as a result, she feels like she is undeserving of the love of her friends. She starts pushing everyone that was close to her away, disengaging from the world and isolating herself. Lucas recognized Max was pulling away, and so he did his best to try and talk to her, to be there for her, but he was unable to be there in the way that Max needed him.
It's like you're not even here anymore. It's like you're a ghost or something.
Why I love this moment so much is because it feels like everything the two characters have been working towards since the start of the season. Max has started to try and let people back in. Instead of standing alone in the dark, making herself vulnerable to Vecna, preying on her worst thoughts, she has decided to try and run to the light, to let in the people that she loves. Lucas is that light. For Lucas, he has been trying all season to get through to Max, and in this moment, when she needs him most, him simply being there and being himself is all she needs from him. Max writing on her notepad that she is glad that Lucas is here says so much, as she is finally willing to accept his help, and his presence brings her comfort even in the darkest of moments. Lucas's reply is equally powerful and acknowledges how much Max means to him and that he would not want to be anywhere else. Lucas asking Max to a movie date is also really sweet, with them sharing a smile despite the terrible circumstances they find themselves in. I also love the lighting of this scene, as the blue hue gives it a really distinct and somewhat ethereal feel to it. I like the fact that they aren't actually speaking to each other, as in the end, no words need to be said. The mere fact that they are there together says everything. In my opinion, it's truly a beautiful scene. Number 9. The dive. This moment goes far beyond the titular dive, as when our characters find themselves in the Upside Down, the scene becomes something truly special. With that said, the diving element does such a good job setting up the moment and building some amazing tension. As the gang searches for the water gate, Steve volunteers to be the one to check things out, relying on his skills from the swim team. There is a fun little moment where after Steve takes off his shirt, Dustin and Lucas comment about how he has gotten hairy and won't shave it off, as he believes the chicks love it. There's a great gag as Max decides to be the judge of whether or not Steve's theory has any validity, only for her to silently stare at him for a prolonged period of time. It's a funny little joke that adds to the moment without stripping it of its suspense. With Steve diving into the deep dark depths of Lover's Lake, we get to see him search for the gate. The shot of him finding it, looking down at it from above, is stunning. As he leaves to report back what he has found, we see a small vine start to move, following Steve to the surface. Watching this, you just know that it is going to pull Steve back down. But even with this expectation, it doesn't make the moment any less engaging. If anything, it adds to the tension, as you know something bad is going to happen, but you don't know how and you don't know when, leaving you watching helplessly from the edge of your seat. Watching Steve struggle as he is pulled back down into the water's depths and through the gate to the upside down is as cool as it is scary. The fear the audience feels is only amplified as alone and vulnerable, Steve is attacked by the Demobats, choking him out as they start to take chunks of flesh out of his sides. It's a gnarly visual, watching him unable to free himself, the mood grim as it looks like it could be curtains for our boy Steve. However, the moment is about to get even better, as Nancy, Robin, and Eddie decide to go after Steve to rescue him. I like how each character reacts slightly differently, with Nancy not wasting a second and immediately jumping in after him. Robin is not far behind her, waiting only long enough to give us a great line, as Eddie is struggling with what needs to happen.
She's in charge.
Are you kidding me? I made that shit up.
I think both Nancy and Robin know that if they found themselves in a dangerous situation and needed help, they could count on Steve to do anything in his power to help them, and in this moment, they return him that same loyalty. I think it makes sense that Eddie hesitates, as he is still new to this world, and is still trying to come to terms with the life or death situations they are finding themselves in. I think it adds to his character and makes his role in the finale, where he willingly puts himself in danger to help others, even more impactful.
The way even that they're just jumping in the water says a lot about like who they are and where they're at and the whole grand scheme of this and the upside down.
Seeing Nancy, Robin, and Eddie come to Steve's rescue and go absolutely ham on the Demobats is such a cool and rewarding moment. It legitimately makes you want to jump out of your seat and start clapping. The fight scene is one long shot as it surveys the area, showcasing each of the teens fighting the bats. I think the coolest move is when Steve bites a bat, then proceeds to slam it to the ground before pulling its head off. As Eddie would say, very metal. Even with this small group of Demobats defeated, the gang isn't out of the woods yet. In fact, they are about to run into the woods as reinforcements arrive and block off their exit. This further sets up the gang's role in the next episode, and the adventures in the Upside Down, which gives us even more great moments. I love the dive sequence, as it feels like a masterclass in tension building, as well as giving the audience some incredible payoff. Number 8. Robin comes out to Steve. This is an excellently written scene, and even though it is simply a conversation between two people, it feels like an emotional journey. It starts innocent enough, as the pair is trying to determine if they still have the drugs in their system, or if they are clear-headed again. Robin asks Steve if he has ever been in love, which starts him to open up and share with her what he has been feeling. Over the course of the summer, Steve and Robin have been working together at Scoops Ahoy, where they started to form an unlikely friendship. Despite enjoying each other's company, Steve was resistant to even considering Robin as a romantic possibility, still struggling to get over some of his previous personal hang-ups.
Besides, I don't even get why you're looking at girls anyway. You have the perfect one right in front of you.
Seriously, if you say Robin again.
Robin?
No, man, she's not my type.
However, after everything they have been through, he has started to see Robin in a new light, no longer caring if she is not popular or is a bit eccentric. He talks at length about everything he likes about Robin, how she is smart, how funny she is, how she is different from a lot of the girls he has spent time with before. And with their recently shared trauma from the adventure with the Russians, Steve knows that he can rely on Robin even in the most dire of situations. He admits to Robin that he likes her in a romantic way and would like to pursue a relationship with her.
First of all, she's hilarious. She's so funny. And she's smart. Way smarter than me.
You know, she's honestly unlike anyone I've ever even met before.
Up until this point, the show has been slowly guiding the audience to the conclusion that Steve and Robin should be a romantic couple. They did this by moments like Dustin constantly telling Steve that he should ask out Robin, and with Robin's confession during the interrogation sequence where she talks about Click's class and how she used to be obsessed with Steve. With these hints, both Steve and the audience come to the conclusion that they both like each other and should be together. However, as Steve is confessing his feelings, Robin isn't looking excited, but rather uncomfortable, cringing more with every word Steve says. With it now being Robin's turn to speak, the scene shifts. We see that Robin feels extremely awkward, scared even as she begins to talk. She talks about how she didn't expect to like Steve, but found that despite her prior perception of him, she ended up really enjoying his company.
It's shocked me to my core, but I like you.
After everything they have been through, and with Steve just opening himself up to her and being vulnerable, she follows suit, sharing with Steve a part of herself that she has kept secret from everyone else in her life. She talks about the fear of being rejected by the people she is close with, that if they really knew her and that she is a lesbian, they wouldn't even like her. They might even hate her.
And if he did know her, like really know her, I don't think he'd even want to be her friend.
Her previous comments about Mrs. Click's class and her obsession with Steve are recontextualized, as she admits that she only watched Steve because she was jealous of him and the fact that Tammy Thompson, her crush, couldn't stop staring at him. There is a pause as Steve takes in everything that Robin has said, before he jumps right back into the familiar banter that they have shared the whole season. This moment sees Steve being romantically rejected and Robin coming out as a lesbian, but in the end, none of that matters, because the two of them like and respect each other so much that they want to continue to be friends. Everything Steve said about Robin being smart, funny, and awesome remains true, regardless of her sexuality, and the two are even more bonded by this interaction, as Steve fully accepts her for who she is. I think the most beautiful part of the scene is how the two end up singing together, showing that nothing has changed between them, that they fully love and accept one another, and their friendship is now stronger than ever before. They are in harmony with one another. I think this is a really beautiful and intimate scene that helps make the Steve-Robin friendship one of my favorites in the show, and it all happened on the floor of a dirty-ass public washroom. Number 7, the quarry scene. How far would you be willing to go to protect your friends? Would you be willing to get all your teeth cut out of your mouth? Would you jump off a cliff? In this great scene from season 1, we get to see just how much Mike and Dustin are willing to sacrifice for each other. The moment starts off with Mike and Dustin searching for Eleven, trying to make amends after the big fight at the bus, only for them to run into their school bullies. Troy is pissed about his pants pissing from earlier and is trying to exact his revenge on the party. I like how despite the supernatural and otherworldly threat of the Demogorgon and Upside Down, in this moment, the biggest threat to Mike and Dustin are the local bullies, helping to ground the show and the kids in the world. These bullies are grade A psychos, as Troy threatens to cut the teeth out of Dustin's mouth unless Mike walks off the cliff. I think this moment shows us so much about how close these kids are as friends, and the lengths they are willing to go to try and look out for each other.
'Cause you're my best friend too.
Dustin is willing to have his teeth cut out of his mouth if it means that Mike doesn't have to jump off of the cliff.
Mike, don't do it. I don't need my baby teeth, Mike. Mike, seriously, don't!
Similarly, Mike literally walks off the edge of a cliff to try and protect Dustin, sacrificing himself so that nothing bad happens to his friend. It is the ultimate sign of friendship and their commitment to one another.
When Mike goes over the cliff, first of all, I mean, that's obviously a crazy thing to do, but it's just how much he values his friendship with Dustin, so it's a really brave thing as well.
As noble as Mike's gesture is, he is lucky that Eleven was nearby to save him from the fall below.
You make that jump from this height, that water turns into cement. Hits you like a ton of bricks, break every damn bone in your body.
She makes quick work of the bullies, breaking Troy's arm and sending them running. Dustin is hilarious in this moment, as he is absolutely popping off, celebrating the party's victory against their tormentors.
She's our friend and she's crazy! You come back here and she'll kill you!
Now safe from the danger, the trio come together, with Eleven apologizing for opening the gate, and everything bad that has come as a result of that. Mike reassures her that it's okay, and he is just happy to see her again unharmed. They share a hug, and Dustin joins in. When I think of Stranger Things, the three of them hugging on the cliffside is one of the first images that pops into my mind. It is such a sweet and sentimental moment, as they are simply happy to be together again, glad that they are all safe. It really is beautiful, and as a result, it earns its number 7 spot. Number 6. Jonathan, Nancy, and Steve fight the Demogorgon. The culmination of the teen storyline in the first season of the show is a really special moment. Seeing Jonathan and Nancy preparing their trap, setting up the Christmas lights as an alarm system, readying the bear trap, and preparing their weapons is all really cool to watch, and the plan itself feels very well crafted. In order to lure the Demogorgon to their location, they both cut their palms, something that I think is very symbolic. Over the course of the season, Jonathan and Nancy have slowly grown close, as they are united over trying to save the people that they care about in Will and Barb. By slicing their palms, they are showing their commitment to seeing this thing through, putting their very lives on the line to kill the Demogorgon. Moving forward, I feel like the scars from these cuts embodies their relationship and their commitment to each other. When things are about to kick off, a wrench is thrown into their plan in the form of Steve Harrington. Steve showing up adds a level of chaos to the moment, as he has absolutely no idea about anything to do with the Upside Down or the Demogorgon, and so seeing the trap that they have planned seems so crazy to him. To try and get him to leave for his own good, Nancy points a gun at him, much to Steve's utter disbelief. Steve showing up isn't some contrivance on the writer's part to make things more interesting. Rather, it feels logical and authentic to the character's journey. Feeling remorse for the things he said to Jonathan during their fight, Steve came to the buyer's house looking to apologize to him.
I messed up. Okay, I messed up. Please. I want to make things right.
Steve has been doing some self-reflection and has come to the conclusion he doesn't like who he is and has tried to start making things right with the people he feels he has wronged. The fight with the Demogorgon is the culmination of Steve's arc, as after the Demogorgon briefly leaves following its initial attack, Steve has the chance to leave. He could simply run away and save himself. However, when he sees the lights in the house start to flicker again, he decides to do the right thing, to return into the house, putting his own life on the line to try and help Nancy and Jonathan. He might not fully know what's going on, but he is able to understand that this thing is dangerous and that the others need his help. Steve charging back in, picking up his iconic nail bat, and fighting against the Demogorgon is one of the most hype moments in the entire show. It feels so cathartic seeing the completion of his season 1 arc. Steve being there was also genuinely terrifying, as the Duffers could have totally killed off his character in this moment, adding more stakes to the fight. After they trap and burn the Demogorgon, they see the slow plod of the Christmas lights, and although they initially think it could mean danger, Jonathan is able to realize that it's his mom in the Upside Down. I think this quiet ending adds to the overall impact of the moment as a whole. This moment is so good because of how it concludes Steve's season 1 journey, as well as how it strengthens the relationship between Jonathan and Nancy. It is also an insanely cool action set piece, which doesn't hurt it either. Number 5. Bob Newby, superhero. Bob was such an integral part of what made season 2 special. He was such a genuine person whose earnestness helped to make him an instant fan favorite. His shining moment comes when Hawkins' lab finds itself overrun by Demodogs. I really love it when a certain task is so specialized that it forces an unlikely individual to rise up to the occasion.
I got this. Remember Bob Newby, superhero.
Bob would not have been the first choice to lead the gang out of harm's way, especially with Hopper standing right there, ready to fat Rambo the situation. However, Bob is a man with a very specific set of skills that make him the only one who can do the job at hand. Even though he has just been thrown into the deep end, only recently finding out about the Upside Down and all of its horrors, he steps up in the moment, putting his life on the line to save everyone else. There is a great exchange between Bob and Hopper, where Hopper is still insisting that he be the one to go on the risky solo mission to unlock the gates. He naively suggests Bob teach him basic real quick, not yet realizing that he just isn't the right man for the job.
All right, teach it to me.
Shall I teach you French while I'm at it, Jim? How about a little German?
Hopper can't shoot open the doors.
You can't just shoot this with guns.
You don't know that.
Opening them will take a much more nuanced approach. Bob going on this mission plays against type in a big way, as Bob Newby does not fit into the role of an action hero very easily.
Alright, you know how to use mice?
No?
His superpower is his brain, and the less technical aspects of the job are a massive challenge for him to try and overcome. He would normally be the man in the chair, helping to guide and support the hero. However, in this moment, he finds himself as the boots on the ground, putting himself in the prime time position. He actually manages to do pretty well for himself, as he gets to the control room without much issue, and manages to open the gates in no time, even going so far as to drop a fun little one-liner in the process.
Open sesame.
He thinks fast on his feet as he turns on the sprinkler system to distract some Demodogs and clear the pathway for the main group. He is almost in the clear when suddenly a Demodog finds itself in his vicinity, and he has to hide in a broom closet, and he would have likely escaped if it hadn't been for that damn broom. Bob's death is brutal as he is mauled by a half-dozen Demodogs, all as Joyce watches on. However, even though he died, Bob's heroics were not for nothing as he helped everyone else escape the compound. I love this moment in Bob stepping up in such a daunting role, as at the end of the day, Bob is just a regular guy, and him rising to the occasion helps to show what someone with such a big heart is willing to do to help others. Bob earns the title of superhero here, as what is a hero if not someone who goes above and beyond in the pursuit of helping others? Number 4. The Snowball Dance. Seeing the Snowball Dance at the end of Season 2 felt like such a full circle moment, as it called back to Mike promising he would take 11 to it in the first season.
We can go to the snowball. Promise. Promise.
This moment is so great because the audience is able to relate to the characters in ways that they can't when it comes to fighting man-eating creatures from another dimension. The Snowball Dance reminds the audience that our heroes are just ordinary kids who are still growing up and trying to discover who they are as people. We see ourselves in them, as most people have experienced the nerves associated with getting ready for their first big school dance, and the excitement and anxiety that come along with that.
I think everybody remembers that a school dance feels like life or death, and this is a really, really cute moment.
It also shows us that they are growing, entering a new chapter in their lives as they start to develop romantic relationships. The moment starts off as we see Dustin getting ready for the dance, taking Steve's advice and using the Farrah Fawcett hairspray to complete his new look. Steve picking up Dustin and driving him to the dance further shows us just how close these two have grown, with Steve going full Big Brother mode and trying to build up Dustin's confidence.
Now you're gonna go in there. Yeah. You look like $1 million. Yeah.
It shows us that they will be a big part of each other's lives moving forward, making their friendship feel even more rewarding. There's also a sad little moment as Steve sees Nancy, his feelings for her still apparent as he tries to move forward. We continue to follow Dustin as he enters the dance, and despite looking like $1 million, he finds himself rejected over and over. It's really sad, as with each rejection, Dustin gets more and more upset, until eventually he is sat on the bleachers all by himself, crying. Your heart breaks for him as he was genuinely trying to put himself out there, only to end up feeling terrible about himself. Weirdly, watching Dustin get rejected is one of the hardest moments to watch, as once again, I think a lot of viewers are able to see themselves in this moment, and all the insecurities they may have felt at a similar time in their lives. Seeing Dustin's distress, Nancy steps in and asks Dustin to dance, in a moment of pure kindness. Nancy really is a rock star, as she is able to reassure Dustin that he has done nothing wrong, and that he should continue to be himself, and eventually he will find the right person for him. She takes him from feeling awful about himself and crying to having a great time and smiling. We also get some really sweet moments between Mike and Eleven as they are able to dance together, the moment feeling magical for them as they have waited a long time for this. We also see the growing relationship between Lucas and Max continue to develop further. I think Max thinking back to this moment when she is trying to run from Vecna speaks volumes to the impact that the Snowball Dance has on these characters, as for them, it represents their happy place. All of the kids are full of youthful innocence that is beautiful to see, and after another season of life or death situations, the kids are allowed to just be kids. The music is also great, with Every Breath You Take by The Police playing as the camera slowly zooms out and flips upside down, revealing the Mind Flayer watching over the school. It is absolute perfection, as it creepily reminds the viewers that the story is by no means over, and that the Upside Down is planning its next move. The Snowball Dance fires on all fronts, and is such an incredible way to end the season. Number 3. The Massacre at Hawkins Lab. The Massacre at Hawkins Lab is such an amazing scene. It takes the audience on such a roller coaster ride as it gives us some of the biggest reveals in the entire series and sets up Vecna as such an interesting villain as we get a peek into his origins and how he came to be. There is a slow build up throughout the season with an orderly befriending Eleven and helping her to navigate life in the lab. We now know that everything he was doing was extremely calculated as he manipulated the young and vulnerable Eleven into doing his bidding and freeing him from his prison. The orderly reveals himself to be none other than One, something which was hinted at earlier. However, where this scene starts to really announce itself as one of the greatest scenes in Stranger Things is when Eleven finds One killing the other superpowered children, his formerly friendly demeanor shifting to that of a predator. The scene seamlessly transitions into giving us another massive reveal as One describes his past as Henry Creel, with the scene being intercut with him revealing his past to Nancy through visions in the present day. It completely recontextualizes the account of Victor Creel, as we now know that the demon that was haunting his family was none other than his own son. We get to really delve into One's psyche and how he views the world, seeing his affinity for spiders and how he started to hate humanity, defining people by their worst moments and forcing them to relive them.
I saw my parents as they truly were. They had done things, 11. Such awful things.
This moment does such a good job of painting a picture of who One is and how he grew to see his family as phonies, hiding behind a mask of civility with their true monstrous selves laying just beneath the surface. Jamie Campbell Bower is beyond incredible in this scene, his performance exuding an incredible magnetism that grabs the audience's full attention. His every movement, sideways glance, and word feels poignant. He still looks human, but he now seems like the monster we will soon come to know.
Wake up, eat, work, sleep, reproduce, and die.
Eleven's confrontation with One is the culmination of her arc this season. She has constantly doubted herself, seeing herself as the worst things she has done, worrying that her actions are that of a monster. Her memories of this event were hazy, and as a result, she fears that she was the one that killed her siblings, in her mind, proving her vileness.
I saw what I did. I am a monster.
However, as she relives the memory, she realizes that she isn't the monster she feared she was. Not only did she not kill her siblings, but when she learns what One did, she stands up to him, even though he is much older and more trained in his abilities. One offered to conquer the world with her by his side, and she rejected him, choosing instead to fight for what is right, despite the odds. One had previously mentioned how him and Eleven are alike, one and the same. However, Eleven proves in this moment that that could not be more wrong, where One sees the worst in humanity, using anger and sadness as the tools to amplify his power.
He had found his strength in a memory from his past, something that made him sad, but also angry.
Eleven tries to see the goodness in the world, channeling a moment where she felt genuine love in order to fuel her powers and beat One. It shows us what kind of people One and Eleven are and the reasons they choose to fight. After being defeated and banished into another dimension, we get the third reveal that One, Henry Creel, is also Vecna. I think establishing the shared past of Vecna and Eleven makes their dynamic and ultimate confrontation all the more interesting, as there is so much history between the two characters. They act as a foil for one another and help to emphasize many of the show's most important themes. The Massacre at Hawkins Lab truly does so much for the mythos of the show, and I feel like I could watch it over and over again. It is simply that good. Number 2. Max runs up that hill. Now I know for a lot of people, this is their number one scene in all of Stranger Things. And for good reason. This moment is extraordinary in every respect. From its inspired use of music, its otherworldly visuals, its incredible acting, and its meaningful exploration into a character's internal struggles and how she tries to overcome them. This moment is top notch from the very start, with Max reading the letter she wrote to Billy, talking about her survivor's guilt and how she wished that they could have been a real family, even knowing that would have likely never happened. Vecna uses Max's biggest insecurities, exploiting her self-loathing to torment her, trying to make her feel like a terrible person and that she deserves to die.
There's a reason you hide from them. You belong here. with me.
In this moment, Vecna feels like a representation of the negative thoughts that people experience while dealing with depression. He tries to make her feel all alone, undeserving of the love from her friends and family, that if they truly knew her, they would revile her. He is bringing the worst things she thinks about herself to the surface. He wants her to feel like she is all alone, except she isn't. I love Steve going to check on Max, and then Lucas and Dustin doing whatever they can to help her. Lucas knowing Max's favorite song, and then playing it for her, opens up a doorway in Vecna's mindscape. It shows Max that when she is feeling the worst about herself, when things seem the darkest, there is always a light that can guide her towards a way out, and towards her loved ones. With the gateway opened, Max needs to be brave enough to run towards it, as sometimes the scariest thing a person can do is ask for help. As Max tries to grapple with everything, she relives all of the good moments that she spent with her friends and family, seeing for herself that life is worth living. However, the road to recovery is not simple or easy, and we see her struggle as she tries to outrun Vecna, her freedom just beyond her reach. This moment feels like witnessing Max's battle with depression and its self-destructive nature as we see her choose to keep on fighting despite everything. It is an incredibly emotional moment with an immense payoff as Max manages to escape Vecna's clutches thanks to the help of her friends. Seeing Lucas hold Max as he tells her that he is there and that she is going to be okay is really beautiful. I can't say enough good things about this scene. For a lot of people, this is the scene when they talk about Stranger Things. This is such a well executed scene that is as technically impressive as it is emotionally resonant. Honorable mentions. Now before I say what I think is the greatest moment in Stranger Things, I just wanted to give a few honorable mentions, as like I said before, I had to make some really hard cuts in order to get the list to 50. My honorable mentions are: 11 closes the gate. Hopper decapitates a Demogorgon. Will shows Mike his painting. Mike misses 11. Billy's death. Getting through to Will. Number 1. Hopper and Joyce find Will. There was never any question for me what number 1 on my list was going to be. So rarely has a moment resonated with me like Hopper and Joyce finding Will at the end of the first season. As the story unfolded, finding Will came to represent so much more than simply finding a missing boy. I like Will as a character, but my need for Hopper and Joyce to find him went far beyond Will himself. When I was watching the show, I needed them to find Will. Finding Will alive felt so foundational to the show, as the hopes of the audience and so many characters hinged on his rescue. They needed to succeed, because if they didn't, it would feel like all hope was dead. His survival was tied so tightly to so many of the characters' journeys, and after everything they went through, I think they deserved the happy ending of finding him. If Will died, it felt like everything good in the world would die with him. In terms of Joyce's journey to find Will, she really went through the ringer. From the fear of first learning that he was missing, to the desperation to try and find him, to feeling like she was slowly losing her mind as her world unraveled.
You're sure it was Will? Because Flo said you just heard some breathing.
No, it was him. It was Will.
Only for her later to be proven right. It was such an emotional roller coaster for her character. Her undying belief that he was alive led her to communicate with him in a near impossible situation where everyone thought she was crazy.
I know it sounds crazy. I sound crazy.
Yeah.
You think I don't know that? I don't care if anyone believes me. I am not gonna stop looking for him until I find him and bring him home.
But she was relentless in her pursuit of her son, and as she ventured deep into an unknown mirror dimension, her finding her boy alive validates every single thing she did, as all her actions led her into this seemingly impossibility, where she is able to find her son still alive. She has been forced to imagine everything Will has had to endure while trying to survive in this alien world, wanting nothing more than to have him back with her safe and sound. Finding Will is also so important for Hopper's story, and as they grow nearer and nearer to the end of their journey, Hopper's trauma starts to come back in full force. What at first was a case of a missing boy became so much more for Hopper, as it pushed him to start to care again for the first time in years. When the show began, he was a complete mess, as he was not taking care of himself, taking pills to numb his pain, self-medicating with alcohol, and living a lonely life as he was not ready to let anyone back in as he feared getting hurt again. As he enjoys travel through the Upside Down, searching for Will, we get to see glimpses of his life with his daughter and how he lost her. These scenes add so much to the emotion of the moment as we see Hopper live every parent's worst nightmare. There was nothing Hopper could do to save Sarah, the pain of which has haunted him for years. However, he can do something for Will. Hopper sees saving Will almost as a second chance of sorts, as even though he can't bring Sarah back, by saving Will, he can save Joyce from the same pain that he has had to endure. Seeing Hopper pound on Will's chest as he tries to get Will to breathe, with the scene intercutting with Sarah's death, does such a good job of establishing the emotional stakes for Hopper and the audience. When Will finally breathes, I felt like I could finally breathe. I think oftentimes TV shows meet you where you are in life, with your day-to-day life at the time informing how you experience a scene, sometimes making them feel even more powerful. When I first watched the Stranger Things finale, I really needed a win, and seeing Will survive weirdly became such a lightning rod for me. It felt like if there was hope for Will, then there was hope for me too. As a result, not only will I never forget my first experience of watching this scene, but for me, it is easily the greatest moment in Stranger Things.
The show at its heart is a coming-of-age story, and what's been interesting about watching it evolve over the years is that the fans have also grown up with it.
Stranger Things is a show that has meant so much to me over the years. Aside from just being incredible television, a lot of its stories, themes, and characters have deeply resonated with me. My videos on Stranger Things were also the first bit of success I ever saw on YouTube, something that has only made the show even more meaningful to me, as it encouraged me to continue to make videos and discuss shows that I enjoy watching. With season 5 fast approaching, it will be the end of an era, as this incredible show comes to an end. I fully intend to enjoy every second of the final season, and hope that it gives us even more great moments. If you somehow made it to the end of the video, I want to thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the video, I would really appreciate it if you liked and subscribed. It really helps out the channel. Thank you for watching, and I hope to see you in the next video.